Hello everyone and welcome to Izzy Builds Bricks. I am Izzy and today we are going to be doing Lego Creator set number 31122, the fish tank. It's a 3-in-1. You can do the fish tank, or it has an art easel with a parrot, or it also features a treasure chest with a sword, but today we're going to be focusing on the fish tank. As you see on the box, there are 5 different fish. We have our Clownfish, our yellow Tang, our royal blue Tang, a Cardinal Fish, and a Untitled Fish. They are all coral dwelling fish. Finding Nemo, we've seen at least 3 of those fish. The Cardinal Fish was in the tank with Nemo in the dentist's office, and of course Nemo being the clownfish with his dad, and then Dory being the royal blue Tang. There are over 6,000 species of coral, with 4,000 of them being, roughly 4,000 being in the coral reefs. There are roughly 2,000 species of coral that live in the colder open ocean versus what we're used to hearing about, like the Great Barrier Reef. Those are shallow, warm water coral. And I thought that was pretty interesting to learn. I did not know that there were cold water corals that lived out in the deeper open ocean. So the clownfish, they are all born female, and when the need for a male arises, they can change into a male, and that can take up to 2 weeks in time. I thought that was pretty interesting to learn. The Untitled fish is the opposite. They're all born males and turn into a female when the need arises. My favorite species that dwells in the ocean is the sharks. My favorite shark is the Hammerhead Shark, and there are 400 known species of sharks. It's a lot of different kinds of sharks, and they live all in different areas, different ocean depths. Some live in the tropical waters, and so of course some live deeper out in the colder waters. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No.
Okay. There are 40 different types of whale that is known, although I don't think, given how big they usually are, we're going to find any more, but you never know. Science is finding new things every day. Sorry, I needed 30 of those. I'm counting out, make sure I got them all. Pulled that right off. one of my favorite things about the movie Finding Nemo was the fact that they all ended up working together. All the fish in the fish tank at the dentist's office worked together to help Nemo escape so he could get back to his father. And his father went on a grand adventure, and along the way met Dory, who helped him get to Sydney to find his son. And then you had the one odd shark who did not want to eat the fish. And he was unfortunately kind of the disappointment of the family, but he lived his life, and he may not have been that happy about some of the decisions his family made, but he still was there and still had his family. Fish are friends, not food. He started his own little thing to help the fish. Drop that. I am glad that they did make Finding Dory, so we could see where Dory came from and how she learned how to speak whale and how to read. And my favorite part of Finding Dory was the fact that the octopus was driving the getaway van and drove it off a bridge, and all those people were chasing after it to try and get them back to the ocean. Besides shark, octopus are probably my favorite creatures in the ocean, just of how intelligent they are and how skilled they are at hiding. And they are able to use shells as tools to hide, to stalk their prey. And that they come in many sizes. You have giant octopus and you have octopus that are super tiny. Unfortunately, those octopus don't live, well, I don't even know if regular octopus live that long, but little octopuses don't live too long. When I do videos, I do try and start with an unopened box, but I did have this box open. Unfortunately, I was having some technical difficulties, so I had to reshoot my video. So that is why I have started with everything all set up and laid out. Take these. I did read an interesting story last year about the man who was swallowed by a whale. He was a commercial lobster fisherman, and he was diving for lobsters, and apparently he's one of the last few commercial lobster fishermen that actually do dive for lobsters. And they think he was swallowed by a juvenile, a younger whale, and he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he ended up getting caught up in the whale's mouth. It's gotta be pretty scary. I mean, you're just kind of doing your thing, and all of a sudden everything's black, and you don't know what's going on, and but he said that, you know, of course he was probably moving around in there, and the whale didn't appreciate that. And the whale eventually came to surface and spit him back out. He did have a partner that was waiting on the boat for him, and his partner did get to see him get spit back out by the whale. He did survive, of course. I don't believe he had any major injuries. He did go to the hospital and get checked out, but nothing major. He did a Reddit Ask Me Anything. His son did it for him. But I thought that was pretty crazy. He's just minding his own business, and he gets swallowed by a whale. Well, he wasn't really swallowed. He was just the whale just kind of took him into his mouth. I believe they said he was just too big for the whale to actually swallow. And it wasn't whales were not known for really eating people in the first place, so he didn't really have much to worry about there. But that is a hard thing to kind of imagine, just, you know, doing your thing and then a whale just out of nowhere ends up taking you in its mouth. But like I said, he did come out of it with no injuries, no major injuries. Probably did this backwards, but it's okay. Yeah, I put that on backwards, but that's alright. It's not gonna make a difference. I just gotta make sure to do the other side correctly. But I think it would be pretty interesting to go diving for lobster at least once in my life, but I'm not one to really dive. I grew up in an area where whales were common in certain parts to see, and I lived in that area for 14 years, and unfortunately I didn't get to see any whales, but I did get to see a lot of sea otters, and I did get to see them playing around in the water. My favorite place to watch them was the cliffs close by my house. And there was one day I was actually walking a friend's dog down that area, and there was a drainage pipe that did go from the bottom of the cliffs to the top, and I came upon an otter, and I actually thought it was a dog at first because it was pretty big and I couldn't see it that clearly in the distance. And I got up on it, and I realized, no, that's not a dog, because I was going to go up and see if I could find out if it had a collar and lived nearby. But no, it wasn't a dog, it was an otter, and it let me get pretty close, within, I'd say, about 10 feet of it before it finally decided, no, we're going to go, and it went back out down the drainage pipe and into the water. But that was the closest I'd ever gotten to one outside of a zoo, or an aquarium actually. But it was a pretty interesting experience to be able to just walk up on an otter, a sea otter. That's one of my favorite parts about going to aquariums, is seeing the sea otters, because you get to get closer to them and see how they interact and how they behave in their, as close to natural environment as you can get in an aquarium. I have never been to a reef, so I've never actually gotten to see the array of colorful fish that live there, and I think it's awesome that we do have such a variety of colors of fish in the oceans. Maybe one day I'll go snorkeling and see the reefs and the oceans and the colorful fish. But I do enjoy getting to go to the aquarium to see them and learn about the different types of fish. I think one of the coolest creatures in the ocean is the seahorse. Alien-like. Of course, there's a lot of alien-like fish out there in the deeper parts of the ocean. And who knows, once we get the technology to go deeper into the dark areas that sunlight never sees, what we might find. And one of the other alien fish that we can find that we know a little bit about now is the anglerfish, and I always thought that was pretty neat how they had their little antenna with the blanking on the name of it now, bioluminescence that they use to lure their prey. Just a random little light in the deep dark ocean. Put that off to the side here. One of these. What all kind of strange creatures might be lurking in the depths of the ocean that we cannot get to. I believe there's actually a species of shark that is called the alien shark. Oh no, it's the goblin shark, that's right. The goblin shark, because of how interesting it looks. And I don't think they realized it was a shark when they first found it, because of how strange it looked. But that is a smaller shark that does live in the darker depths.
Make sure you let them know about the dorkfish. He loves them corn dogs.
Yeah, the swordfish does love his corn dogs. He's just out there in the middle of the ocean. There's a corn dog, and he thought to himself, "What's a corn dog doing in the middle of the ocean?" And he just had to take a bite. He got himself captured by Bill Engvall.
Yeah, related to the goblin shark. His relative dorkfish.
This is the goblin shark and the dorkfish. Wouldn't be surprising if they were related in some way. I think Bill Engvall's a good comedian. He has some good jokes. Would be kind of funny. I imagine there are fish you can catch on a corn dog. You never know until you try. There's probably people out there who have tried to catch a fish off the corn dog. do enjoy fishing. I don't go very often, and we are catch and release. We don't keep our fish. We release them back into the wild. One of the most interesting fishermen I've seen is the wicked tuna. And I say that they're more interesting mainly just because of the regulations, which I do agree with. I agree with the regulations they have in place. That they cannot use a barbed hook. And these guys are catching upwards of 600-pound fish, you know, or even sometimes more. And oh, the movies fell at my feet. My feet knocked them over.
Okay.
And then you're fighting these, you know, 600-pound fish, these massive fish that are, you know, on a hook that is not barbed. And they fight them for hours, sometimes even, you know, up to a day. Sitting there fighting these fish to catch them to make a living. And I get that, you know, it is a frustrating process, you know, to have these regulations in place, but I do agree with them. I'm very pro save the animals, save the ocean, and I do, you know, hope that we can get it back to a better place where we're not killing our oceans, unfortunately. But there are some great organizations out there that do work with that. We have the Ocean Conservancy, and they are working to protect marine habitats. They're working to restore marine habitats. I mean, we are losing marine habitats due to global warming and, you know, overfishing and unfortunately plastic pollution. There's a lot of plastic pollution going on in the water, and I say this as I have a plastic bottle here, but I actually have recently bought, today in fact, I did buy a water filter, so I am going to start using that instead of buying bottled water. Because I do agree that too much plastics is going into the ocean. I mean, there's tons of YouTube videos out there of people who are helping save the wild animals from getting tangled in things like fishing lines and the little plastic rings that the cans come on. But I'm glad there's people like that out there, but there shouldn't have to be people like that out there. And we should be more aware of what we're doing with our waste and where it goes to. And that's another thing the Ocean Conservancy does, is they're working to help reduce the human impact on ocean ecosystems. And there it is. I almost couldn't find it. Another great organization is the Surfrider Foundation. They are a non-profit organization that helps with issues such as water quality, and they are also another organization that is helping to try and reduce the plastic pollution in the oceans, and they are working on coastal preservation. And they also are working on maintaining and sustaining our marine ecosystems along the coastlines and things like that. That Paul Walker is famous for the Fast and Furious. May he rest in peace. He was a big shark guy. He did work with one of the organizations out there that is helping to capture and tag and release sharks to make sure that they are staying healthy and that, you know, their habitats are not getting destroyed, and to learn more about them. Because I know for a long time we didn't know great whites, that they go off somewhere in secret to have their babies. And I know that they tagged a lot of them to try and figure out where they're going and what they're doing. And for a long time, we didn't know where they had their babies. And I think we're starting to learn that now. And I know it probably varies by the area that the great white typically stays in. One thing that I find pretty crazy is that we have, you know, whales. Whales are ocean-only dwelling creatures, and they're massive. But I find it interesting that, despite the fact that they live in the ocean, they are air breathers. They come up in circuits, and then they get their breath of air, and then they go down and do their thing. You know, some whales, along with dolphins, they like to play at the top of the water and stuff, but it's just crazy to think that these creatures, these ocean-dwelling creatures, breathe air instead of the typical, you know, fish have the gills and they get their oxygen from that, from running water over their gills. And I'm not even sure if we actually know how that process works. I haven't really looked into that much, but it is just crazy to think that these huge, massive creatures that live in the ocean breathe air like we humans would, instead of getting their oxygen from the gills, like most ocean creatures do. And put that on that. Swap that around. Make sure I get it all right. There we go. The little pieces that I have trouble finding. So let's go ahead and just build these up like I'm supposed to. Actually follow the directions codes. So I don't remember if I mentioned it, but there is only 40 species of whale that we know of. And yet there's 400 species of known sharks. I mean, the biggest difference between whales and sharks is whales are not really aggressive, but sharks are. And maybe that's why there's not that many species of shark. Or, I'm sorry, whale. Because whales, maybe it's because they're not as aggressive, so they didn't evolve. Not that many species of whale evolved. I do hope that we are able to save the whales and save what we have left and preserve our ecosystems, because it is a sad thing that they are overfished and everything. Like I said, I'm big on save the animals, save everything. Because I think we humans have done a lot more damage than good, unfortunately. And it is our ecosystems that suffer, and in the long run, that will cause us to suffer. But on to a different topic. So. I think jellyfish are also very fascinating because jellyfish, they don't have a brain. And I don't think we understand quite how they work yet. They're these blob-like, gooey creatures that just kind of float around, meander around the ocean. And they can be very destructive. I mean, they are poisonous to humans. I believe there are jellyfish poisons that can be very detrimental to us. I'm missing pieces. I know I'm not. Okay, sorry. Forgot what piece I was looking for a second. Okay, sorry. You know what all I need and get all the right pieces. And somehow they like to elude me. So. We have all these creatures that work together. Things like crabs. There are species of crabs who will take an anemone and put it on their backs so they have protection. It's pretty smart. Like they are protecting themselves. Back to the clownfish. So we all know that because of Finding Nemo that clownfish do live in sea anemones. But there are only certain types of sea anemones that they can live in. Not all anemones. They're not immune to all anemones. They are immune to certain ones, which is the ones that they live in, but not all of them are clownfish friendly, so to speak. Some of them will be very hurtful to them. And I thought that was interesting to know. I mean, there's so much diversity in our oceans, and I mean, there's a lot of diversity on land too, but since this is about fish, it's the aquarium stick of fish. I also think it's pretty crazy that salmon, a normally ocean dwelling fish, they go to freshwater to lay their eggs. Why am I not able to find this piece? I know it is in here somewhere. Let's start taking some things out here, maybe that'll help. So there are several different species of salmon. I don't remember exactly how many at the moment, but most of them do go up into fresh water to lay their eggs. And I know crabs, there's the blue crab, they lay their eggs in brackish water, and brackish water is basically where fresh water meets salt water. So it's a mixture of both, but it's still going to have a higher concentration of salt because of being partly in the ocean. But it's interesting to me that these creatures that live primarily in salt water do go to fresh water or brackish water to lay their eggs and to raise their young. Speaking of raising young, I do think it's pretty cool that the clownfish, that the males are the ones that make sure to take proper care of their babies. They're very devoted fathers. And then there's other fish who have their babies and they just kind of leave them to sink or swim. Sea turtles don't stick around to raise their babies. Sea turtle babies go and get to the ocean on their own, and I am very glad that there are organizations out there who do go out to sea turtle spawning and make sure that a good number of babies do make it to the ocean to ensure their survival, since there are certain sea turtles that are endangered. I know in South Padre Island, which is in Texas, that there is a state park that has sea turtles come, and that they make sure to take care of them, to come and lay their eggs. Then they make sure to take care of the sea turtles enough to make sure that they are protected. Oh no! Go put that back on there. And maybe one day I will have to figure out when the sea turtles hatch and go down there and watch the little baby sea turtles make their way to the ocean for the first time. Let's get this snapped into place. One of these, one of these, and one of these little doohies. So we have this little, it's almost like a little plunger looking little piece. I think it's pretty interesting, all the different pieces that Lego has come out with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. this. Now I understand that Lego, while they do have several different pieces, they might be limited on what they can do, but I think they could have done the coral for this better. I mean, it could be better, in my opinion. I think they could have done a lot better with this than what they did. They have very unique pieces out there. They could have definitely made this better. It's gonna go. Try to put it on. Sit down, there we go. Alright, so we're making the last bit of, well, not the last bit of coral, but the last bit of this. Like I said, they could have done better with it. I think it doesn't really look all that great, but again, I understand that Lego probably has limited pieces that they work with for that, so. Two of these. So I have seen a little bit of Whale Wars, and I don't agree with exactly how they go about it. I do agree with saving whales, and I do agree that the Japanese that they have been fighting on that are unnecessarily killing the whales. But I also think that they shouldn't be harassing each other the way they do in what they do. I mean, like I said, I agree that the whales need to be saved. I mean, the Japanese should cut down on what they're doing, but I also think that they shouldn't be harassing each other. I am thankful though that it hasn't started a war, because it could be one of those things that could easily do that. Like I said, I do agree that the whales do need to be saved, and they do need to the Japanese do need to cut down with what they're doing, and I understand that whaling is a part of their culture. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, but they could be more considerate, I guess would be a word to use, in how they're doing it. I mean, if they want to preserve that part of their culture, they should at least be willing to adapt to the current environment, and that is that, you know, if they keep going the way they are, that it's potentially possible that the whales that they do go after will go extinct, and then they won't be able to celebrate that part of their culture anymore. So I do think there does need to be a change there, but I don't agree with how the people of Whale Wars are going about it. And right now I am working on making the yellow Tang, which is going to be our first fish after we've completed the coral. Hold that up for y'all to see again. put the wrong piece on. Helps if I pay attention to what I need to do. Alright, we got the right piece on there. Put it in there. Let's get these next pieces gathered for the need. Some eyeballs. One of these. That, 2, 1, and 1. Okay. It's kind of silly how they make this, but I understand part of why they do it the way they do. Just to give it more depth. There. On the note that I was just talking about, I am glad that there are several organizations out there that are trying to work with like the commercial fishermen, you know, and there's a lot of people out there that it's part of their livelihood. That's what they do to keep their families and stuff fed. And I understand that, and I hope that we are able to come up with better practices in fishing, in commercial fishing, that, you know, ultimate goal of not having any bycatch, you know, that ends up getting sadly killed because they get caught up in nets and stuff like that, and there's nothing that can really be done for them. Alright, so let's put this little guy here. At a slight angle. Alright, so here's our yellow Tang. Which is kind of funny because the instructions show that we're putting it right next to this piece of coral. But the box shows the fish way over here versus the coral over there. It's kind of silly that they have it like that. But that's what we're doing so far. Alright, now we're going to make the weird looking one. Let's get this piece. Green guy, and leave all of these little guys. I also think it's sad that, you know, there's a culture out there that does shark fin soup, and then there might be probably more than one culture that does shark fin soup, but most of the time when they do shark fin soup, they cut the fins off the shark and they re-release them. It's like, how do they expect them to survive? And sharks are edible. I mean, they could do something along the lines of catching, you know, the sharks and using their fins, but they can also use the other parts of their meat and stuff. So I don't get why that isn't a part of their culture, where they do, you know, they have their shark fin soup, but they also use the rest of the shark as well, instead of, you know, rendering a poor creature defenseless in culture. And I know there are cultures that have adapted to the changing environments, and I am very grateful for that there are cultures who can and will change. to suit the needs of what we need to keep our oceans going, to be able to continue celebrating cultures who do indeed have traditions such as shark fin soup. I think they should be able to come up with better practices than what they do. But sadly, this is just the world we live in right now. And maybe the future generations can help change that. So, take this piece off. Get this off. Put that there. And let's put it here. Alright, we also need 2 eyeballs for this one. So here is the cardinal fish that we are working on. The cardinal fish actually come in several different kind of colors. There's several varieties of cardinal fish, which I think is pretty neat. The most common one is the one like we saw in Nemo, like the one I'm building here. They are black and white. The cardinal fish are also known for, it doesn't show it on this particular fish. And I imagine it's just because they're trying to work within the constraints of regular world. But the cardinal fish are known because they have a split fin. Their dorsal fins are split, so they have the one come up and then that kind of has a split off of another. That's the piece I need. Alright. I also think it's interesting that they chose this big long piece to represent part of the fin for the fish. You can't see that because of my TV in the background. So there we go. Alright, to clear these. On there. We need to make the wings. So, I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit here. On back to Finding Nemo. So in Finding Nemo, Nemo is able to escape the dentist because he goes through the drainage system. Now, I'm pretty sure Australia is not that much different. I put that on there first, didn't I? I did. Just turn that around. Then the US, in the regards that when you flush something down the toilet or anything down your sink, shower, things like that, it actually goes to a water treatment plant. Turn him, his tail, that's going to go good. Alright, so here's how I have my fish set. I'm going to try and bring that in closer. There we go. Alright, now we're going to be making another piece of coral. So we need these. We need 3 of these. crutch stick looking things. So, you know, if a fish were to actually be able to get down into the sewer pipes, it wouldn't go straight into the ocean, which is a very good thing. But it would go to a water treatment plant, which would then take out contaminants, filter out the water, and do that before it gets released into any kind of body of water. And sometimes they get released back into use, depending on where it is, or where this is kind of this here. So far, I'm actually liking this coral. I think this looks a lot better than the other ones. True. There we go. So, I put that in on, didn't I? I did. Gotta pay attention. Alright, so it's supposed to go down like this, and I had it like that. But that's okay, it's an easy fix. So you stick apart, go back together. So we're going to put it up like this, and that needs to go facing down. No, it goes up like that. Alright. I realize that all coral is different, but I still think they could have potentially done a little bit better with this coral than what they did. One of the more interesting things I've learned about the ocean is that there are sea sponges. Sea sponges are actually real living creatures in the ocean. They help filter them out and they do their thing. That is going to go over here. That. So here we have our coral placed. And we are going to make our royal blue tang next. So we have our coral placed, and we're going to make our royal blue tang. And let's get started on that. So we need to clean blue. And there's the clear. So that's going to do that. And there's also a type of sea cucumber, and I believe there is what they call a sea sheep. A sea sheep. I don't remember if it's specifically called that, and I don't think that's its actual scientific name, but I believe it is a type of sea slug or sea cucumber, and it kind of looks like a little sheep, more blob-like than an actual sheep, but it looks like a little sheep. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Like I said, it's pretty cool, the weird things that you can find in the ocean. A good story of aquatic life adapting to their surroundings is that I believe it was the Longhorn Caverns in Marble Falls, Texas, that they have a cave, it's not in the water. They have an underground cave system there, of course, that has an underground lake. And in this lake, there are catfish. And I think there's another type of creature there. I don't remember exactly what it is. But these catfish, they don't have eyes. They're completely blind because they live in this underground, lake or pond, whatever. it may be actually called. And they have adapted to being in the darkness by losing their eyesight. And I thought that was crazy to learn that there's these creatures out there that don't have these fish, these catfish. Common type of fish. I mean, you go find catfish nearly everywhere. There's even saltwater catfish, which I thought was pretty cool to learn. I didn't know that they had saltwater catfish. Sorry, I need to make sure I got the correct piece. This one. Put that on there. But yeah, it's interesting to know that there are a lot of creatures out there that do adapt to their surroundings like that. And I imagine there's probably creatures at the bottom of our ocean, deepest parts of our ocean, that we still can't yet explore because we don't have the technology to go down that far. That could be potentially the same, that they have developed enough that snap. I just dropped that piece. I got it. Goodness, I have an extra. Alright, so we're gonna go like this. That piece there. So. I hope in my lifetime I will be able to read the news reports of these scientists being able to go down to the deeper depths that we currently cannot reach and see these fish. There. Alright. So we've got the head of our blue Tang done. And we're going to work on the body. So one of those regular plunger pieces. So, by nature, I'm a very curious person. I've always loved learning about different things. Sometimes I wish they broke down their steps a tad bit more than what they do. But we can figure it out quickly. To let you guys know, I am going to college currently to get my bachelor's in environmental science. So I am working on becoming an environmental scientist because I want to work towards preserving our environment. Our blue Tang done. Let's get head placed. And go kind of that away. Show you guys. It's kind of hidden off in the corner there. Now that I have less pieces, it should be easier for me to find them without having to struggle with too much. I'll need two of those. Okay, so put these together. I know I just said it, but I am, my main goal in going into environmental science is to be able to protect our resources, our environments, and our ecosystems. I don't think people realize just how much we actually depend on these ecosystems, and that once we've destroyed them, it's gonna be really hard to get them back if we even can. This piece does not look good on. I don't know why this is so difficult. We need to turn it. There we go. Helps if I put it on the right way. So it needs to go there. My main goal is to get a job for a state park. I don't know if I'm going to go for one in my area specifically or where I might end up, but my main goal, like I said, is to try and get a job at a state park to help manage wildlife, to help with wildlife management and making sure we are able to see that and able to sustain what we have. So see, I like the way that particular piece of coral is built. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer there. They did a really good job with that coral. I like the structure of it and the coloration and how they layered it like that. Alright. So we only have one fish left. Oh, we also have a little submarine. Oh, I forgot about the little submarine. We all live in a little submarine. A little submarine. Oh, okay. So put that one about right there. Yep, that's right. And the other one goes over here. Alright. So let's get building our little submarine. I did think that the little submarine was pretty cute. Well, I guess it's not actually a submarine. Yeah, they do have it depicted as a little submarine, but it's not going to be a man-powered one. It's going to be an electronic one. Done. I think it's cool that they have those little scientific submarines. I don't think I would ever get in one, but I would do the camera-powered one, the little water drones, I guess you could call it. And a little elbow macaroni looking guy. Put him on there. He goes in here. submarine. Put him right there. And we should be on our last fish, which is going to be, oh no, we have 2 fish. I forgot we don't have the clownfish made. Alright, well, let me get those done real quick. Alright, 2 of these. I am happy to see how technology has advanced and how we've been able to go and, you know, explore more and learn more about the planet we live on and the creatures that we live with. I am sad because there are creatures that we did have that this does not look right. Oops, I put it on the wrong way, that's why it doesn't look right. My bad. Alright, got that looking right there. Alright, eyeballs. But as I was saying, I mean, I am pretty glad that technology has advanced enough to allow us to go and explore these deep, darker parts of the ocean. Can't go that deep yet, but I know we are working on it. These 4 things. So I will say, because I know I'm getting pretty close with this, that I'm pretty happy with the ease of build. Did I put that on that way? I did. Oh, it's showing it going that way. It's showing a different way here. Let's fix that real quick. So I'm pretty sure when it first had me do that. Oh, no, I just can't read directions. Well, it happens to everybody. Alright. I think it's supposed to be back 1, so let's put it back 1. That fixed there. And move Dory back just a little. Back a little bit better looking. And that way the fish are not all crowded together. And now we are going to make our clownfish. So anyway, I have been pretty happy with the ease of this build. It has been a pretty enjoyable build so far. It's nice to see how everything's coming together. And it's kind of neat how all these little details come together to make a bigger picture. And even just the colors of some of these Lego bricks are pretty cool. Like how we have this kind of off orange. And then we have this beautiful kind of amethyst color. for the fins of the Cardinal Fish. I don't know who named that fish. It's just a very strange name, but it is what it is. It is a fish that lives in our oceans. But as I said, I was saying, I am pretty happy with this build. It's not very challenging. There's a lot of little pieces, which does kind of suck, but it makes all the little details a little bit better. Because I mean, if you look, we have these black pieces here on the orange, with the orange on top, and it just adds that extra little depth of detail into the creation of the fish. How many people have made these and end up with their fish googly-eyed just because they didn't look to see how it was put on there. Because I know I've done that a few times, almost done that a few times now with all these fish and putting the eyes on. Almost haven't looked to see how it's supposed to go on there. The other thing I was actually kind of excited about with this build was that it was a 3-in-1, because I didn't know that that they made 3-in-1s. So I thought that was pretty cool. Alright, it looks like our little clownfish is done. I'm going to put that on backwards, so we'll just turn that right around. Right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. Stop second guessing myself here. And that is our build. So this has been Lego Creator Set number 31122. The 3-in-1 fish tank with the option of the fish tank, which is the main build, or the art easel with the parrot, or the treasure chest with a little crab and a sword. Leave a comment down below if you want to see me do any of the other 2 builds that came with the set. Thanks for watching.